What's happening, guys? Kenny here again, and today I've got another Apex review for you guys. And what that's going to be about today is this guy. That's right, this is the Wii Bishop. And this is actually designed by the in-house Wii team, which is a little bit of a departure. I know they've done Wii knives before, but a lot of times they just work with a designer. And that's actually what they've been better known for, is their work with designers. This is definitely something different from them, where it's their own design, and really just really a great example of something they can design in-house. And they're definitely getting better at this, for sure. So first things first, I just want to talk quickly about the reviews. This is an Apex review, and for those of you guys that want to know my methodology and stuff on these reviews, you can go ahead and look at the video I just did on that. I'll explain kind of what I'm looking at and what I do with the knives before I review them and stuff. You can go ahead and refer to that video, and I'll go ahead and put in the description of this video. I'll put a link to that video so you can check that out. In saying that, I'm going to go right into it and talk about my overall view of this knife going in. Before I got this, as you well know, if it's part of this Apex review, I got it through the Apex pass around group. Big shout out and thanks to those guys again for letting me be part of it. This is the second knife I've got from them, and I will say the first one was the Benchmade Ale, and I wasn't super impressed by that knife, as you well know if you saw my review. This was definitely, I was really excited to try this one, and I mean, I hate to say it, but there's definitely we definitely hold some value to our friends or reviewers that we trust. We do hold some value in their opinions. So when you see a positive review come from a reviewer that you respect, then it makes you want to try a knife. So I originally saw the review done by Banner 24/7 on this knife, although I watched it a very long time ago, and I chose to specifically not watch it again because I don't want his impression to affect my decision on what I think of the knife. And sometimes when you watch a video and then you try to make a video right after watching it, you might get some of their wording into your video, or it might bleed into your video. So I choose not to watch other people's videos before I do my own. I try to do all my own research and everything, so I don't have to look at their review to get any information. So in saying that, I was really excited to try this knife. I've only tried a few Wiis, and they happen to be collaborations or like mass drop knives and stuff like that. So I didn't get a true impression of like what is Wii about? What are they about? And that's where this knife comes into the picture. This is Wii, not only in their manufacturing, seeing what they can do, but also in their design. So it's really cool to get this in hand, and I was really excited about trying it out. Not to mention, I've never really had a bolster lock type knife. Even though this is kind of like a bolster, I mean, this is a bolster lock, but what I'm talking about here is we pretty much have a titanium frame lock with bolster overlays going over the rest of the handle, so it gives you the bolster effect, well known in traditionals. So this gives you that bolster effect, but you have a titanium frame lock as far as strength of the locking mechanism and all that. So it's a really nice touch, very cool design. So I was intrigued, and I definitely was excited to try it out. In saying that, I'll go ahead and put the specs on the page here. I don't like to waste your guys' time spewing off a bunch of specs, although I will go back and kind of let you know if some specs are off or if something's different than what is described. So in saying that, I'll go ahead and bring you guys back and do some size comparisons. And let me go ahead and bring in the Best Tech Eskra, because this is actually a Apex knife that's in at the same time. And they are very similar size, even though you can see the Eskra is a larger knife. They are very similar, especially when you're talking cutting edge. Although you see the Bishop does have quite a bit more belly and swoop in the blade. So yeah, the Eskra, and then I'll go ahead and bring in my normal stuff. We got the PM2. Go ahead and put that guy in there. That's a similar size knife, actually very similar to the Eskra. And then from there, we'll go ahead and bring in the Para 3. This is the lightweight version. You can see that the Bishop is definitely a larger knife. Makes the Para 3 look pretty small. Then we'll go ahead and bring in some Benchmades. I'll give you the Freak. And then, of course, the 940, because that's a very, that's like a staple Benchmade. And actually a very similar size knife to the Bishop. Very similar. Although we are talking a very different blade shape, as I already, spoke of. This is more of that, like, almost like hunter style drop point. And then we have like about the same handle length, like grip size. But the Bishop does have a broader handle, a bit broader in a lot of places, although some of the spots that really matter are pretty much the same. So, yeah, and saying that, go ahead and bring in just a few more. Just because this is a WE manufactured knife, I'll go ahead and bring in the Archbishop. Very similar size knife, although it does have a, choil. And that's it for the size comparisons. So, as you guys can see, this is a good size knife. And this was a very good size. This is about where I like to go in the in my current EDC size. This is about where I'm comfortable, about that 3.5-inch blade, give or take, and weight and all that. It's very good size, and I definitely really enjoyed carrying it. And then I'm going to go into the aesthetics of the knife from here, guys. And as far as that's concerned, you guys can see this is amazingly done as far as aesthetics, in my opinion. This is definitely kind of the subjective part of this review, is the aesthetics. It's always going to be very subjective. I really love the look of it. I like the bolster look. It gives it that like almost classic look to it. And then the carbon fiber gives it that more like modern look, and the carbon fiber is beautifully done. They chose like a nice weave to use for this polished carbon fiber look. I like the blade shape. I do a lot. It has almost like a Spyderco-esque look to it, except more of a traditional style blade shape for even like a hunter style drop point, like I may have mentioned before. We do have a swedge here, which gives it a nice touch. And I really do like the overall aesthetics. The pocket clip, I like the aesthetics of the pocket clip. It does seem to fit with the knife. Although, I do feel like it probably should have been bronze anode to match the bolster, the titanium there. But that's just a personal preference type of thing. Yeah, but overall, I do like the aesthetics. And I think it's a good looking knife. And then moving forward from there, I'll go into the fit and finish and how they executed that, design of the look. And as far as that's concerned, the fit and finish, I'm from what I've experienced with WE, they do a really good job with their fit and finish. That's definitely what they're known for. And then my experience with it has been nothing short of that. They seem to be doing an excellent job with their fit and finish. And this knife seems to be no exception. As you can see, they do like a bronze anodizing on the bolsters, on the titanium here, and then stonewash it, and it is gorgeous, guys. This is coming through fairly well, but I will say in person, it's even got almost like an antiqued look to it, and it's really beautiful. And then that really flows well into the stonewash, like worker finish they use on this blade. It's really going to hide wear well, and just probably be a very good working finish as far as the blade finish goes. The finish on the carbon fiber is done excellently. It is very smooth, yet you can kind of feel the weave texture. So it does have a slight texture to it, and it's actually very well done. It feels amazing. And I got no complaints on the way they did the carbon fiber here. Or the clip, for that matter, with the lines on the clip, which is kind of like Wii's. The 3 lines is like their thing. It's almost like the W, the 3 lines of the W. Yeah, you know, that's their logo right there. Nice touch. Just really subtle, almost looks like Chinese writing, you know, in a sense, like but it definitely has a unique look. And even though it's not bold and like name like out there, it gives you that, it gives you what you need, you know. You got the W and the E. So it really just is a subtle and tasteful way of doing their logo, in my opinion. So as far as the fit goes, everything's done pretty well. We have a perfectly centered. Oh yeah, and then I didn't mention the backspacer is carbon fiber, and it's done very well. And they did chamfer the inside edge of the carbon fiber as well as the inside edge of the backspacer, so it gives it that nice, like, you know, it's just a good way to go about your finish so that you don't have to be perfect with the way these line up. It gives you some wiggle room as far as that's concerned. It's done very well. I don't see any gaps, anything to speak of. You guys can see the carbon fiber weave here. It's beautiful. Just a really nice piece of carbon fiber that they used as overlays here, and the backspacer. And then the fit of the carbon fiber to the bolsters is done very well. You'll see here, you can't even see a seam there really. Like, it's very subtle, very tight seam. And as far as right here, the touch is ever so slight. Like, going this way, I can't feel it at all. Going this way, I can slightly feel a catch, but it's ever so slight. And I mean, honestly, that could change with just thermal expansion of this titanium. Like, if it's in your pocket and it warms up and expands, that might be perfectly even, I noticed. And then other times when it's cooled off, you might feel a slight ridge there. But that's something I don't talk about a lot, but thermal expansion can sometimes affect this. And it affects it on this, I notice a lot. If this is in my pocket, it can be really flush all around. And then when I take it out of my pocket and it's slightly cold, I'll notice I feel more ridges and stuff. So thermal expansion is a thing, guys. I don't really talk about it that much, but especially with, you know, with steel and titanium, you're gonna have a lot of thermal expansion. I'm not gonna get off track here, but I just want to mention that. So as far as that's concerned, I flip it over, and on this side we do have slight, you can even see it right there. Do have a slight ridge going to the titanium that I can feel, which isn't like amazing, but it's not something I noticed in use, and it's not something that bugs me necessarily. They do kind of chamfer the edge of the titanium, so you don't have like, I don't feel a sharp edge. I just feel the transition. That's all. And then here on the back, you can actually see, hopefully the lighting shows it, but you can see more of a gap there. I don't feel a ridge at all, but you can see the gap. So I mean, it's not amazing, guys. Like, I'm not like blown away by the fit here with the carbon fiber to the titanium, but there's nothing that I'm actually like bothered by. Nothing that makes me go like, oh, this isn't well done. So saying that, the tolerances are very tight, and everything is done very well as far as tolerances are concerned. Lockup is like, you know, right at about 30-40%, and it doesn't move really. I'm squeezing hard here, guys, and it doesn't really move. There's a little bit of lock stick there, do get a little bit of lock movement, but ever so slightly, and then a tiny bit of lock stick when I'm coming back after that. But really, the tolerances are done amazingly here, and the fit, the execution of the tolerances, this lock bar, it seems to be done very well as far as the geometry of the lock bar and the way they do that. It's really done excellently, and I've found no issues with that, with the lockup. No play in any direction, so that's done very well. Fit and finish wise, this thing is excellent. I got no complaints, really. This could be slightly better, but I'm sure from example to example that's gonna slightly change, and I got no complaints about this example. So moving forward, I'm going to talk about the design a little bit, and in saying that, I do want to kind of just jump through this because I love the design. I think it's done very well. I think that it's very subtle. It's got a great look to it. I do love the way they designed this, and I think hopefully that this is where they're going, and they just continue to make well done designs, because this is excellent. I really do appreciate the way they design this knife as a functioning user. You know what I mean? Not something that's like a piece of art that you don't want to use, but a piece of art that you actually want to put to work, and it's very functionally designed. So in saying that, I'm going to move right through that and go into the action. And the action of this knife, guys, is stellar. As you've probably seen me fidgeting with this the whole video already. We're at 17 minutes here already. But you'll see that really good action. And I'm not saying really good in just such a subjective way with no, I want to stipulate why I think it's that good. For one, we have a really nice detent. This detent is done to a level where I really can't fail it unless I'm trying. So if I just barely, if I really just put pressure on this until I get it to release, I can get it to fail. But if I'm at all trying to just pull down on this, if I'm doing light switch or push button, if I'm at all using any kind of pressure in a consistent way, it flies out. Like you guys have seen in my videos before, one way I test a detent is by going ahead and just using my thumb. And this one is just dialed in perfectly. And I have no issues any way, shape, or form as far as deploying this thing. Another test I do is to use my left hand. And it's just, my left hand's definitely probably better than most people that don't use knives, but it's still not as good as my right hand as far as just being, consistent. So in saying that, this thing just fires amazingly. And like I said, in either way, you can either do a light switch and just go 12 o'clock straight down, or you can put some preload pressure going towards the pivot, and it'll fly out even faster. So that's done amazingly. This is very smooth, guys. Very smooth. I believe this is on ceramic ball bearings, caged ceramic ball bearings, I'm sure. I did not take this knife apart. This is an Apex pass round group. I'm not taking these apart. This does have an over travel stop and lock bar interface there. So that's a nice touch. And then as far as the action, like I said, it's so smooth and it's just really nice. Kind of a cloudy feeling. Really smooth. You don't feel any resistance in like a inconsistent way. Very consistent resistance. And then when you do want it to close, if you are the type of person that likes a drop shutting type action. Oh, by the way, this is where the lock bar starts to interact with the detent. You can see there, that's where it hits. It hasn't hit your thumb yet. And then there it hits your thumb, and it is on the detent. On the tang there. So that's where it releases, which is a nice touch. You might have to move your thumb back a little. You can't just have it right up in there. Go right there. There it is. And it does stay where you put it, but you can see it really wants to go. So even though with this, with the tension on the pivot that it came to me with, it really does. Oh, it wants to drop free. It wants to shut, guys. I really enjoyed the action on this knife. Ooh, yeah. Really enjoyable. So, in saying that, the action is stellar. I really enjoyed it. It's not quite as drop-shutty, guys, as, like, for instance, this Ferrum Forge collaboration. This one does have a slightly more drop-shut type of action. This one's right there, but it's not quite as free. So I really enjoyed just fidgeting with this knife, and yeah, don't have to say much more about that. I do like deploying it from the thumb hole. You can roll it out slow. Although the detent's a little strong, I do find myself sometimes fighting it, and then I'll just pop it loose like that. Or I can always do the pinch. But in saying that, Spidey Flick works pretty good. Although you do have to, you can't go this direction. You can't go up. You have to go out. Just a little bit. You have to go out. Because of where the hole is corresponding with this point here. But detent is a little strong for those types of deployment, but once you get used to it, it works very well. Moving forward, the blade, guys. This blade is done very well. I'm going to try and get through this section a little faster. I know this video is already getting pretty long. This is done with M390 steel, although it is going to be impossible for me to show you guys. It does actually say M390 right there in the smallest print, but it is so hard to read, which is kind of nice. I like how this blade is really plain and there's nothing on it. Very sterile. But yeah, that M390 is so hard to read. I actually had to take my seeing glasses off to try and get much closer in really good light to actually see that M390. But it is there. So this is M390, and you know, they're known to kind of do their M390 on the softer side, but when I say soft, we're talking like, you know, 59 to 60 is kind of the range, and then we have seen some below that, but they seem to be getting in line with their M390, especially after the whole situation I had with Elliot from Ferrum Forge. Once he got on Wii about making sure that they're testing their HRC numbers and everything, it seems like we've gotten a step in the right direction from Wii, and we've been getting some nice numbers coming off of Wii from their S35 and their M390. So that's really nice to see. Company really paying attention to their heat treat protocols. And also, let's be realistic. The community's been kind of like believing the whole like, oh, this is really meant to be a 58 to 60, and that's just not true, guys. We know this now that M390 can be taken all the way up to 64. We know that's not necessarily likely for production knives, but yeah, let's see some 61 to 62 maybe. I hope that's what's coming. But the blade shape is done very well. I like the shape of the with that all this belly here, and it does slice very well going through material. You can use that in your advantage for slicing, to use that belly, and I did, and it was very enjoyable to cut with. This does have a fairly tall blade, although the dimensions, it says like, I think it says 1 1/4, but 1 1/4 is actually from this point, so I think your blade height is really more like 1 inch right here. In saying that, it does come fairly high with the swedge, with the saber grind. It's fairly high, almost full flat. So you do get a good amount of distance before your apex. And what I did find in checking the behind the edge thickness, I'm not going to bring it on the screen here because I'm running out of time, but I did get about, we're about at 22 thousandths right here where you can see it starts to smile. 22 thousandths, going to about 20 thousandths right here, to about 19 at the thinnest point right here, back to about 20 moving out to about 24 right here, and then 27 at the tip. So yeah, it's not amazing. I actually would have expected it to be a little thinner. This is at about 17 degrees per side, maybe about 35 inclusive, like 17 and a half. And I did get that by putting my angle finder on there. And it's kind of hard to see, but yeah, it was right around 17 and a half degrees per side. And that's, it's not amazing to get at that kind of BTE, behind the edge thickness. Kind of wish it was a little thinner, guys, to be honest. But in saying that, it did slice very well. It performed well. I enjoyed cutting with this. And the M390 seems to be done pretty well. It came to me relatively sharp. I know this has been handled by a bunch of other reviewers. I don't know how much cutting it did, but in me cutting with it, it felt like it wasn't like necessarily hair shaving sharp when I got it, and it's definitely not right now. But it's paper cutting, and it's still paper cutting. Relatively aggressive, not really. You can see it does bite a little bit, but it's not like gonna cut me necessarily. So that's done pretty well. I did do a slight strop on this before the video, and it definitely cuts paper, even receipt paper, pretty well. The performance of this blade is done well. I wouldn't say amazing, but it's done well. I do not like the fact that this does have a slight recurve. As you can see right here, there is a slight recurve, and there is a slight smile. So in subsequent sharpenings, or sharpenings in general, you are going to get a smile here, and if you do want to straighten that out, you're going to lose some blade. Whether you lose it here and here, or in one spot or the other, you're going to lose some edge when you try and get rid of that, if you do. So it's not amazing. I'm not super stoked on that fact, but small thing to consider. And then the ergonomics, guys, and the performance and using this thing, guys, wow. Ergonomically, this knife is done amazingly. You can see that it's contoured, so it does have some contouring this direction. Everything is chamfered beautifully on the back, on the inside, where the titanium meets the carbon fiber, where the lock bar goes in. You can see they give you a nice space here to get to disengage the lock. Yeah, nothing to complain about as far as ergonomics are concerned. And the way this does get a little thin here, but just it really with the thickness, which is almost I think the width of the handles is like 0.54 is what they advertise, and I think this one's actually 0.53 right here. And with that combined with the distance here, which is about 0.78, this actually fills my hand nicely. And you guys can see I have plenty of real estate there. So even if you have bigger hands than me, slightly bigger at least, you should be able to fit on there pretty good. And again, my hands, guys, 3 3/4 inch broad, 4 inches tall here, and then 6 1/4 from here to here. So it gives you an idea of how that blade's gonna fit in your hand, how that handle's gonna fit. In this one, guys, in every grip, hammer grip was super comfortable. The swooping of the handle worked out excellently, and I felt really nice. I wanted to put it to more work than I really could with it being an Apex review. So, super comfortable. Didn't notice any hot spots at all. This clip is done amazingly for ergonomics. It just disappears, absolutely disappears in that crease of your hand. And oh my God, just inherently this knife just went in my hand and went, yes, I want to cut. If you're cutting at an angle, pushing through something, sitting on the jimping back here works excellently. And if you're pushing through something at this angle, you can put your thumb on this side of that hole, on that ramp on this side, and that's done excellently. The jimping is done perfectly. If you're going to do jimping, it is rounded and chamfered nicely. Really slippery. I know a lot of guys would probably complain about this jimping, but I think it's done perfectly because it's just enough to, if you want to dig in, you can, but if you're just putting your thumb there, it's not going to cause a hot spot. So amazingly done jimping. And just ergonomics altogether, really done so well. And I enjoyed this knife in every grip, although I don't use this grip very often to stab into something. Yeah, draw cut even. Everything about this grip is just super comfortable, super comfortable. So yeah, loved that. As far as carry goes, this thing carried very well. The clip is done amazingly. A lot of ramp going in, sufficient ramp coming out, plenty of spring. You see that very nice spring to the clip and good retention. So going in and out was just amazing, guys. On top of this smooth carbon fiber, super, super easy going in and out of the pocket and very comfortable in ergonomics. Great clip. And as far as the weight of this knife, you were talking 3.92 ounces, and this one was 3.89, so very, very nice. Or I think 3.89 is what they call for in their spec, and I think this knife was 3.92. So really, really nice. Just a good weight for the amount of work you're going to get done with this knife, and just disappeared in my pocket, really. The way that it sweeps back, you know, has a nice, the flipper tab doesn't really protrude that much, and the way it sweeps back, it really stays away, you know. So really enjoyed the way they did that. Yeah, carry was excellent. In conclusion, guys, I know this is kind of a long one as usual, but in conclusion, I really, really enjoy this knife. And I'm going to have a hard time letting this one slide and go along to the next person because, oh man, I'm going to be thinking about it. I'm really going to be thinking about this one, guys. And this is not just going to be a catch and release if I do get it. It's going to be it's in my pocket, you know, for the rest of my life type of knife. I really enjoyed using this. And what I would be doing next, if I get this knife, is anodizing these bolsters, anodizing the frame. So I would remove the carbon fiber, probably do something crazy like anodize this, what's it called, like that like purplish blue, and then anodize this the acid green or something, and get like a Joker effect going on or something. I'm not a huge fan of purple, but that crazy like, you know, neon purple that comes in anodizing really looks good, with especially right up against some acid green. I would really dig that on this knife. So it might be where it goes if I get one. It's going to get some cool anodizing jobs on it, and maybe some darker stone washes and stuff. But I really want one now, guys, and it might be on my list. I know that sometimes knives that I want don't get purchased because it might be something that I already reviewed, so it's not necessarily like it's gonna be something good for the channel. But this one might have to join the collection. Something I didn't mention that's nice design fact is you see how that wraps around the stop pin. I didn't mention that. Sorry, guys. Yeah, the way that the blade wraps around the stop pin and actually disperses some of the interaction there. It's actually going to help with the wear of the stop pin and the wear of the blade. It's just really nice. It disperses the what's it called, the weight load as well when you're pushing down on something. It's just a stronger way of doing it. So that's a nice touch. And you know, a lot of knife makers are doing that now, but it's something that I really, really appreciate. So in saying that, I know I kind of went back into something there, but yeah, I really loved it, guys. And thanks so much to the Apex Pass Around group for letting me get this guy in hand. And he might have to join the crew. The chamfering, guys, the way that they finish this thing off is just beautifully done. I didn't talk about the crowning of the spine either, but another nice touch. Anyways, thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm sorry it got to be very long. I really did love this knife, so that's why. But thanks for watching. Have a great day.